The controversy surrounding Daystar Television Network did not erupt overnight. For many observers who remember the lawsuit against Denise Boggs for speaking out about Joni Lamb and the Daystar Network, it feels less like a beginning and more like the continuation of a story that has been quietly building behind the scenes for years. Before we go further, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Long before legal filings and courtroom discussions entered the picture, there were whispers, questions raised in small circles, concerns shared privately, and moments that, at the time, seemed easy to dismiss. Daystar had long stood as a powerful force in Christian media, projecting a message of faith, hope, and spiritual authority to millions. Its leadership, including figures like Joni Lamb, carried an image of confidence and conviction that resonated deeply with its audience. But every institution, no matter how polished its public presence, has layers beneath the surface. And sometimes, those layers begin to show, not all at once, but through moments of tension that slowly accumulate. According to the narrative now unfolding, Denise Boggs became one of the voices willing to raise concerns that others may have hesitated to express publicly. Whether seen as a whistleblower, a critic, or something in between, her claims appear to have struck a nerve. They were not minor disagreements or passing criticisms. They were, by all indications, serious enough to prompt a legal response from an organization that has spent decades building its reputation. The lawsuit itself has become a focal point, not just because of its legal implications, but because of what it represents. Legal action of this magnitude often signals more than a disagreement. It suggests a deeper conflict over truth, perception, and control of narrative. For supporters of Daystar, the decision to sue may be viewed as a necessary step to protect the integrity of the ministry. From this perspective, allegations that could harm the credibility of a faith-based organization must be addressed decisively. Silence in such cases could be interpreted as weakness or even admission. But for critics, the situation looks different. The lawsuit raises questions about whether the response is proportional, or whether it reflects discomfort with scrutiny. When allegations lead not to open dialogue but to legal confrontation, it can create the impression that something larger is at stake. And that is where the story becomes more complex. Because this is not just about two parties in a legal dispute. It is about the broader issue of accountability within institutions that hold significant spiritual influence. When leaders are seen as authoritative voices in matters of faith, the expectations placed upon them are not merely organizational, they are moral. The possibility that private conversations and financial documents could become part of the public record adds another layer of tension. Information that was once confined to inner circles may now be examined under legal standards, where transparency is not optional but required. This shift, from controlled messaging to compelled disclosure, has the potential to reshape how the public understands what has been happening behind the scenes. For many observers, this moment feels like a turning point. Not necessarily because of what has already been revealed, but because of what might still come to light. Lawsuits have a way of uncovering details that would otherwise remain hidden, and in cases involving public trust, those details can carry significant weight. There is also a human element that cannot be ignored. At the center of this situation are individuals, leaders, accusers, supporters, each with their own perspectives, motivations, and interpretations of events. It is easy, from a distance, to reduce the story to a simple narrative of right and wrong. But reality is often more complicated. What is clear, however, is that the stakes are high. Daystar's identity as a leading Christian broadcaster means that its actions are not viewed in isolation. They are interpreted through the lens of faith, ethics, and responsibility. When controversies arise, they do not remain confined to internal discussions. They become part of a broader conversation about what leadership should look like in spaces that claim moral authority. The lawsuit against Denise Boggs has amplified that conversation. It has drawn attention not only to the specific claims being disputed, but also to the culture within which those claims emerged. Questions about openness, responsiveness to criticism, and willingness to engage with difficult truths are now part of the public discourse. And perhaps that is the most significant development of all. Because regardless of how the legal case unfolds, whether it results in vindication, settlement, or further escalation, the underlying issues will not simply disappear. Once questions of this nature are raised, they tend to linger. They invite reflection, discussion, and, in some cases, calls for change. For viewers and supporters, this can be a challenging moment. Trust, once established, is not easily shaken, but neither is it immune to doubt. When new information emerges, people are often forced to reassess what they believe, not only about an institution or its leaders, but about the systems that support them. In that sense, the current situation is not just about Daystar. It is about the broader relationship between institutions and the audiences they serve. It is about how trust is built, how it is maintained, and what happens when it is tested. As the case progresses and more details come to light, the narrative will continue to evolve. New information may confirm existing concerns, challenge assumptions, or introduce entirely new dimensions to the story. But one thing is certain: the conversation is far from over. What began as a set of allegations has now become a defining moment, one that could influence not only the future of Daystar, but also the expectations placed on similar organizations moving forward. And in the midst of it all, the central question remains unresolved. When truth, perception, and authority collide, what ultimately prevails? As observers continue to follow the developments, another layer of reflection begins to emerge, one that goes beyond the immediate headlines. It touches on the nature of leadership itself. What does it mean to lead in a space where spiritual authority is intertwined with public influence? And how should leaders respond when that authority is questioned? Some argue that scrutiny is not a threat but a necessary part of accountability. In their view, institutions that welcome examination ultimately grow stronger because they are forced to confront weaknesses and address them. Others worry that constant criticism, especially in the public arena, can erode trust even when claims are unproven. This tension is not unique to Daystar, but the visibility of the network makes it a particularly powerful example. The unfolding legal battle also raises questions about power: who holds it, how it is used, and what happens when it is challenged. Lawsuits, by their nature, are instruments of power. They can protect, but they can also intimidate. They can clarify truth, but they can also complicate it. For Denise Boggs, stepping into this situation, whether by choice or circumstance, places her at the center of a narrative that is much larger than any one individual. For Daystar, responding through legal means signals a determination to defend its position, but it also invites deeper scrutiny. And for the public, watching from the outside, the experience is one of uncertainty. There are questions without clear answers, claims without immediate verification, and a sense that something significant is unfolding just beyond full visibility. As more information becomes available, the story will likely take new turns. Details that are currently unknown may come into focus. Perspectives may shift. Alliances may change. But the underlying themes, truth, accountability, trust, will remain constant. Because in situations like this, the outcome is not measured solely by legal decisions. It is measured by how people interpret what those decisions mean. It is shaped by perception as much as by fact. And that is why this moment matters. It is not just a chapter in the story of Daystar. It is a reflection of broader questions that extend far beyond a single organization. Questions about how truth is handled, how power is exercised, and how trust is maintained in an increasingly watchful world. The answers to those questions may not come quickly, but they will eventually come. And when they do, they will not only define the outcome of this case, they will help determine how stories like this are told, understood, and remembered in the years ahead.